Hello everyone and welcome to another webinar by Royal Cyber. My name is Mir Mustafa Ali Pasha. I'll be your host and one of the speakers for today. Now some housekeeping for a smooth experience before we begin. If you have trouble seeing my screen or hearing me, please notify in the chat window located on the right side of your screen. You can post your questions and comments in the chat box anytime during the presentation. There will be dedicated slot for Q&A towards the end of the presentation where you'll have the opportunity to ask your questions and get your responses. You can also post your questions or requests for any follow-up information on the email ID that is displayed on your screen right now. And lastly, we would love to hear back from you about your today's session by completing a short survey which will be shared towards the end. So, in the next 40 minutes, we will discuss how to unlock the future and how to navigate your journey beyond MuleSoft RTF Appliance. So, that's me on the left side. I manage the middleware and integration practice at Royal Cyber, solely focused on helping our customers get the best return on investment on their digital transformation journey. On the right is my colleague Mr. Haider Raza, who's a certified MuleSoft Solutions Architect working at Royal Cyber. He has a lot of experience in helping customers uh, in migrating them away from MuleSoft RTF Appliance to other options that we'll be discussing in today's webinar. So here is a quick glance at the agenda for this webinar. We'll talk about why are we here, right? And if you're using RTF Appliance today, what are the options that are available for you to migrate away from it? And what are the best practices you have to follow for migration based on Royal Cyber's experience? What are the factors that you need to consider when you embark upon this journey? And an exclusive offer for those of you attending today's webinar, which will be discussed before we close. So stay tuned till then. So, but first, let's take a quick look at Royal Cyber and who we are. Royal Cyber is a mid sized, fast growing IT consulting and digital transformations company specializing in solutions, software, and services. We have over 2,500 consultants across the globe. We are headquartered in Naperville, Illinois, USA, and we do have a global presence with offices in Canada, Mexico, the UK, Middle East, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and with a couple of development centers in offshore in India. Our strategic partnership with a lot of technology companies on the globe, such as Salesforce, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and others, and coupled with business agility and follow the sun delivery model, makes Royal Cyber an obvious choice for a lot of our customers across the globe. We provide reliable and high performing solutions and services on all the areas listed here, such as APIs, middleware integration, cloud, e commerce, big data, AI and ML, RPA, DevOps, you name it, right? Artificial intelligence, data science, mobile app integration, mobile app development, so on. So now let's get into the topic without further ado. So why are we here? Right? Anypoint Runtime Fabric or RTF offering from MuleSoft is a container service that brings cloud benefits such as isolate applications, horizontal scaling, ability to redeploy with zero downtime to your on-prem deployments, whether they are in their data centers, in your own data centers, or on a private cloud. You can manage deployments easily via MuleSoft's centralized control plane. However, there is some news around the RTF appliance flavor, which we will see in the next slide. So the news is MuleSoft has announced the support for RTF appliance is ending. So if you're an existing customer of MuleSoft that is using RTF appliance for your use case, then this important is crucial for you. There are some dates that are shown on the chart here on the screen. MuleSoft did announce the end of life announcement in early this year in Feb, and they've also announced the end of standard support, which means there are no more updates or upgrades will be released by MuleSoft beyond this date. That is also in the past, which is August 1st, 2023. So what is upcoming? The next milestone is end of extended support, which is coming very soon in Feb 1st, 2024. Right, so beyond this, you can still manage and deploy your applications on your existing appliance. Right, you can install new appliances, but you will not get any type of support or any update for those appliances so beyond that date, right, which is quite scary. And in 12 months from that date, which is February 1, 2025, the end of life support is also ending. So everything with respect to RTF appliance will vanish from MuleSoft website, right? So it's important that you take a note of this announcement from MuleSoft and take the right action. So what is the right action? If you're someone who's using MuleSoft's RTF appliance for your to run your business, and this webinar is very important for you. So here in the upcoming slides, what we're going to do is we'll discuss options on how to achieve all to retain the benefits of all the everything that RTF Appliance has to offer, right? And however, also migrating away from RTF Appliance into a better state. So, what are the options that are available or at our disposal to manage this situation? Right? Where can you now move your APIs that are currently running on RTF Appliance? Let's find out. Essentially, we are proposing three options. This problem could be solved in three different ways that are shown on the screen. If you are using RTF appliance, number one, you could migrate your APIs to the RTF BYOK offering, bring your own Kubernetes offering, which is a self-managed Kubernetes. So in this case, APIs would be running on the RTF environment, which is hosted on a public cloud of your choice, on your own public tenant. The second option is um, CloudUp 2.0. So you could migrate your APIs from Artifact Plains over to CloudUp 2.0, right? So in this case, the APIs would be running on MuleSoft's own managed cloud. The last option is called uh, Flex Gateway. This is an option for those customers who are actually switching or thinking about moving towards containerizations or microservices, things like that, but still want to retain the power of the Anypoint platform, right? So with this approach, your APIs can run anywhere, right, across any environment, including your cloud native and containerized environments. However, they can still be managed and secured through the Anypoint platform. So in the upcoming slides, we will talk briefly about these options in details, their benefits, and then I'll also show you a quick comparison of all the three options. So what is RTF on self-managed Kubernetes, which is the BYOK model? So with this option, you can install an existing Kubernetes environment. You can install it on an existing Kubernetes environment that your IT admin operates, right? It could be AKS, GKE, or whatever it is that's supported by MuleSoft. This RTF, this flavor, in fact, is supported by Amazon's AKS, Azure EKS, and Google's GKE, and there are a few more offerings from Red Hat OpenShift as well, which we will see in the subsequent slides. However, running RTF on self-managed Kubernetes comes with a shared responsibility, right? So it means you as a customer is responsible for managing all the components that are listed on this slide, but highlighted by the green boxes. Right? The green boxes are the areas that you will have to manage as a customer. Some of those include provisioning, configuring, and managing the Kubernetes cluster itself, right? Used by the runtime fabric. And you also have to manage things like ingress controllers, customization of ingress resources, external load balancing, log forwarding, network ports, NAT gateways, proxies, host, runtime, networking, and all that stuff, right? So that is something you'll have to manage all of that. Essentially, the environment which is required to run the RTF itself has to be provisioned and managed by the customer. Right. So what does MuleSoft do in this case? MuleSoft would be responsible for those components which are highlighted in the blue box, such as the runtime fabric agents and the associated components, the Anypoint control plane, right, running on MuleSoft's managed cloud, the Mule runtimes. All of these are highlighted in by the blue boxes. So for the components that you as a customer are responsible for, you should have a team, have few teams in your organization to help you jumpstart on that journey, such as an IT team who can provision and manage the entire infrastructure, a network team whose responsibility is to specify the allowed ports and configure the proxy settings and enable everything on the network layer, and a security team who can verify compliance and obtain the right security certificates for your organization which could be applied. So when you choose this option, there are several again sub flavors to it, in terms which is predominantly classified as public cloud Kubernetes clusters or bare metal solutions. So what this means is you can go for the managed Kubernetes offerings of one of these cloud providers, such as Amazon's AKS, EKS, Google's GKE, Microsoft's AKS, Red Hat's OpenShift service on AWS, which is called ROSA offering, Azure's Red Hat OpenShift offerings is it's called ARO, Red Hat OpenShift's dedicated offering that is running on GCP, or Red Hat OpenShift's offering that's running on IBM Cloud. Finally, the the Kubernetes managed Kubernetes offering from Alibaba Cloud, right? However, if you prefer to standardize your own bare metal solutions using the public Kubernetes distributions, depending on your affinity to the public cloud and in-house Kubernetes expertise, the following options could be used. Right, it all purely it's your choice, right, based on your comfort. The offerings available are supported by MuleSoft or Amazon AKS Anywhere, Rancher Kubernetes Engine, the RKE, the Red Hat OpenShift Kubernetes Engine, Red Hat OpenShift Container Platform (OCP), which is quite popular nowadays, Red Hat OpenShift Platform Plus, finally VMware's Tanzu Kubernetes Grid. Now, what are the benefits of this approach? The first benefit is that you can run the latest version of Kubernetes, and you have the flexibility, in fact, to upgrade your own Kubernetes. For example, lately we recently upgraded one of our customers RTF self-managed Kubernetes to the latest supported version, which is 1.27, which was released by MuleSoft just last month. Right, the support for that was released by MuleSoft last month. So this is the biggest benefit. Your Kubernetes is up to date with the updated supported version released by MuleSoft, whereas in the appliance it was the opposite, right? With this approach, you don't really need to have any more controller nodes. That saves a significant cost for you, right? You no longer required to explicitly provision and operate dedicated infrastructure for managing for running the controller nodes. Now this comes as part of the managed Kubernetes service offering that you choose. All you have to do is only manage the compute and storage for the worker nodes. So this makes it much easier and cheaper to spread the workloads across different regions without having to budget for duplicated overhead expenditure. Now you can also take advantage of the node auto scaling feature to save some cost when traffic volumes are really low. The third benefit we see is the multi-region deployment support, right? Which is quite helpful when you want to serve different geographical locations, and also to address situations such as high availability and disaster recovery. The last benefit is using custom ingress resource templates which are available. Now, this enables you to take advantage of the native Kubernetes ingress configurations and functionality, which also include support for multiple ingress configurations per application, multiple ingress controllers within the same runtime instance, TLS and HTTPS configuration, and so on. Option B is CloudUp 2.0. Right, so what is CloudUp 2.0? CloudUp 2.0 is a fully managed containerized iPaaS platform where you can deploy your APIs and integrations as lightweight containers running on the MuleSoft cloud. It supports a concept called a shared space, which is an elastic cloud of resources that includes Mule instances running in a multi-tenant environment. It also supports a private space setup, which is a virtual, private, and isolated logical space within your Cloud Up 2.0 in which you can run your applications. You can really create multiple private spaces either in the same region or different region. The diagram that is shown on the screen shows the architecture of a private space setup using a combination of ingress and load balancer. So using an ingress and combination of ingress and load balancers, you can restrict the traffic to your APIs, so that they are either coming from your internal customers, or you can or open it up for both internal and external consumers. And you can also connect your on-prem data center or your private cloud through the transit gateway or the VPN tunneling option as shown here. So what are some of the benefits? The biggest benefit is you don't have to manage the Kubernetes cluster environment. This is all completely managed by MuleSoft for you, right? So the pain of managing the infrastructure is taken out, which is the number one benefit that we see here. So you don't have to manage provision any of the Kubernetes services. The second benefit we see, it supports global deployments across 12 regions, right? Um, it also supports elastic transaction volumes. And finally, it has several built-in security features, which makes it really a future-proofed architecture, right? So this is an excellent option for those who are thinking that who are already using Cloud 2.0 today and want to migrate your RTF APIs running on RTF appliances to Cloud 2.0 as well. The third option, option C, is the Flex Gateway option. So what is Flex Gateway? Quickly, it's an ultra fast, lightweight API gateway designed to manage and secure our APIs that are running literally anywhere, right? So there are primarily two components of Flex Gateway that work in tandem. One is called the control plane, which is hosted on the MuleSoft platform. That is a central location for your management and observability, right? So using that, you could build your APIs, add your policies, your deploy APIs in the runtime, monitor your APIs, and configure your Anypoint Runtime Manager as well, right? The second component to that is the runtime plane, right? The runtime, the gateway runtime is in fact a customer hosted distributed entity installed in any cloud. This is something you'll have to install in the cloud provider of your choice, and this runtime receives commands from the control plane and routes and protects your backend APIs, right? So this is built with security in mind, because Flex Gateway secures your communication between the runtime plane and the control plane through mutual TLS. So if you look at it, this is a good option if you're looking for high performance and high availability, and you want to secure APIs that are running outside the MuleSoft ecosystem or MuleSoft landscape. It gives you that small footprint, but security for that footprint that you're looking for. It can function in connected mode as well as a local mode options. Now, what are the benefits, right? The biggest benefit is you're extending the power of API, Anypoint platform, to APIs that are running anywhere, right? Regardless of the size of the API, complexity of the API, the language in which the API itself is written, or the cloud provider where it is running, right? It provides you the consistent enterprise security and manageability across all the environments. It is ultra light, so it is ultra fast. So it reduces the response times, the application response times, and the cost associated with the high performance on a smaller footprint. It allows you to also implement any architecture of your choice, right? You can really manage any services across any architecture, be it microservices or monolith, with a gateway that can be again deployed anywhere, including your cloud native and containerized environments. You could also integrate this with your DevOps processes, so you can deploy to virtually any target using the web interface or the declarative configuration files that most developers are really familiar with. And it is secure, right? It's built with security in mind, so it supports the zero trust by default. And it also finally supports a good governance model, so which allows you to secure your APIs. You can engage with your APIs, you can discover your APIs, and govern them, not just those Mule APIs but also APIs running elsewhere, such as the non-Mule APIs. So in summary, what you're seeing on the screen is a quick comparison of all the, let's say, features of the three options we discussed, right? The first is the management responsibility we spoke about, For RT, if you go with the RTF option, it's shared between the customer and MuleSoft. When if you go with option 2, the Cloud Hub 2.0, uh, predominantly and everything is managed by MuleSoft. You just have to focus on your APIs. And Flex Gateway, again, very similar to the RTF option, but then there is some slight differences, but there still you have some shared responsibility, right? How many APIs do you need per core? It varies on the RTF, but on Cloud Hub 2.0 it's fixed. Global deployments are supported in different shape and form. It You do require a good amount of Kubernetes skills, DevOps skills, if you choose RTF option on self-managed Kubernetes, or option C as well, right? If it is deployed as a Kubernetes ingress. About the availability of memory to APIs, it's fixed if you choose the Cloud Hub 2.0 option. And the support for a multi-cloud deployment, it is available on RTF and Cloud Hub 2.0. Yeah, but it is very specific to AWS cloud only. Flex Gateway, as we said, this is cloud native, can be deployed in any cloud of your choice. Now let's quickly look at some of the best practices and for migration, and what are the factors that influence your option, right? So when planning the migration, there are some factors you need to consider to make an informed decision, right? In terms of the choice that you want to take. Number one is the core consumption. So you have to determine your future vCore requirements based on the current usage, APA transaction volume, and yearly growth trend. Okay, you also have to keep the cost of managing the self-managed Kubernetes right on your own. So this includes the cost of the managed Kubernetes on running on the public cloud vendor, offered by the public cloud vendor, running for in your own tenant, right? So you have to keep an eye on that as well. Integration touch points, such as the location of your backend systems or the SaaS services, may have an impact on the performance of the API. So it can impact the API latency and the SLAs. For example, if you let's say you move your runtime plane to a different cloud provider, such as Azure, and MuleSoft, by default, the cloud hub is running on AWS, right? So you should ensure that the intra-cloud communication between AWS and Azure would not cause significant latency issues or incur any additional data transfer cost. So it's important to do a detailed analysis on the specific option, the architecture you're looking at, the region where you want to deploy it, the different integration touch points that are applicable, that needs to be connected, and the nature of the data transfer that needs to happen between the systems when making a choice. And the fourth is any movement, in fact, of APIs from one runtime plane to another would affect its deployment configuration. So this needs to be carefully considered during the migration exercise. The fifth is the availability of the technical skills in itself is essential, especially the deep expertise in the cloud architecture, right? On the cloud architecture of the cloud you are using. The Kubernetes skill set itself is very essential here, and the DevOps technology. So your team should should have pretty good experience and knowledge on some of these things which are crucial to do a successful migration. In addition to these things, you should also keep an eye on the other infrastructure components which are essential to stand up the runtime plane in the desired target state. For example, if you think about Cloud 2.0, then you should also start thinking around how many private spaces do I need, if at all I need one, how many private spaces do I need, how many transit gateways are required to accomplish this migration, right? On the other hand, if you start thinking around, let's do it on RTF on self-managed Kubernetes, then you should think about how many VPCs do we need in a Kubernetes cluster environment. What about the load balancers? What about my automation scripts that needs to be written using Terraform or similar technologies, right? To automate your deployments. So stuff like that has to be kept in mind while thinking about an option uh, to migrate. Finally, data residency and compliance is very important and very crucial. You have to ensure compliance with data residency regulations, especially if the movement involves crossing international boundaries. So while we spoke about the factors which you have to consider when choosing an option, this slide we want to talk about the best practices that you have to follow when you start on this journey of migration. Right, this is based on the expertise and experience of the Royal Sabre team, where we have already helped few customers in moving away from RTF appliance to one of these three choices, and this is just a learning from my team. So the first one we are recommending is you have to determine the best fit licensing model for your specific use case. For instance, in case of MuleSoft's RTF on self-managed Kubernetes option, the option A, its licensing model is either based on the sum of the CPU limits or the number of physical cores, right? So you just have to keep that in mind. What is the best fit licensing model for you? And the second thing is proper planning of the number of cores, the volume of cores that you require, right? So you have to assess how many cores are required for moving your current and future APIs to RTF self-managed Kubernetes, or option A or option B or option C, right? So the third thing is you have to, regardless of your options, you still have to do a thorough performance testing to make sure to simulate real world scenarios, and also make sure you are hitting those SLAs and not breaching them. And then you also have to turn on the monitoring and tuning so that to track your API performance post the migration, and fine tune the configurations based on any latencies that you observe. Right, so it's you learn and then you fine tune to make sure you're adhering to again the SLAs. You also have to consider upgrading and testing the various connector versions and the MuleSoft runtime version as well. uh, you may require additional vcores if you're thinking about disaster recovery, right? So you have to understand the specifics of MuleSoft disaster recovery course licensing for your specific chosen runtime plane. Another best practice is the choice between RTF and BYOK, RTF BYOK, or versus the Cloud 2.0, right? What best fits for your use case? So how, when, regardless of which choice you choose, you have to keep few things in mind. For instance, Cloud 2.0 has an excellent administrative simplicity, right? It's very simple to administer it because it offers a more cost-effective alternative. It's a more cost-effective alternative because you don't have to manage the on-prem infrastructure anymore, right? However, it comes at a specific premium because it's all managed by MuleSoft for you. But when it comes to RTF, you have to set up all of that infrastructure, but then again has its own benefits, right? You have control over that infrastructure as well. So it's a trade-off. You have to know that in advance when you're making the choice. Another best practice is when you're choosing an ingress implementation for your RTF self-managed Kubernetes or the BYOK option, it is highly recommended to choose an ingress implementation that has enterprise level support. Okay, this is very very important. So you have to make sure if you are going with option A, then you have to choose an ingress controller, an ingress implementation, and then an ingress implementation. If you do not have the right support, then there are bound to be some problems. So it's to make sure you have enterprise level support for the ingress implementation that you choose. Another best practice is to embrace DevOps during the planning phase itself. So do not wait until the migration is done, but during initial phases of the migration assessment or migration planning, engage with the DevOps team to make sure you have the right CI/CD pipelines created or modified and targeted towards the new target environment. You also have to review specific limitation of each platform before making a choice, right? For example, if you go with option B of CloudUp 2.0, then you should know that persistent queues are not supported in it. So you either have to plan using an external MQ solution, or you also have an option to go with Anypoint MQ platform. Last but not the least, right, you have to also evaluate impact to your API consumers when you are moving the migration, right, and then plan it accordingly. plan your testing accordingly. So for example, the the NLB that comes with the RTF appliance, it supports lower versions of TLS, whereas the application load balancer provided by the cloud managed Kubernetes providers usually support the latest version or the N-1. So while migrating APIs, you need to make sure the API consumers, such as your front-end applications, are informed to start using the appropriate version of TLS to invoke the APIs, right? To avoid any API call failure. So these are some of the best practices that we would recommend following when you start on this journey. So the moment is here. As I announced during the beginning of the session, I am presenting to you an exclusive offer, which you can carry as a takeaway. Right? This is a jumpstart program. We call it a jumpstart program to help you get started with either the assessment of the migration itself or the actual implementation of the migration. Right. So the jumpstart package is a combination of both. We would ideally we would sit with your stakeholders, identify the scope for the work. Either it's just an assessment or the actual migration from the appliance to the preferred target. And then we would set up cadence with your teams. We would perform the assessment itself initially and give you a good overview of what's existing, what is the right approach for your use case, what is the recommended migration path, how does the implementation plan look like, what are the timelines, and what are the associated costs, right? And if you want, we would also help implement the migration in itself to the target choice and do a knowledge transfer to your team, right? And we could also start talking around any additional services that you require or support that you require to keep the lights on going forward, right? We would estimate the assessment itself should not take more than 1 to 2 weeks, right? And the implementation would take depending on the volume of your APIs, right? And the target choice that you would prefer based on our recommendations, right? But all of this typically is expensive, and this is something you have to factor in when you start thinking around migrations, right? However, the benefit that you're getting by attending this webinar is all of that is available or offered to you at a heavily discounted price, right? This is only for those who have registered for this webinar or attending the webinars today. So you must be thinking, why should I go with Royal Cyber, right? This could be done by any vendor or any company, or you could do it in-house as well. And the reason you should go with Royal Cyber is because we've already helped a lot of customers this year. Right after this announcement, even before this announcement was made, we were having conversations with customers in terms of, hey, this is coming up and we should start thinking around it. And a couple of customers, few customers really answered in positive. So we started the journey of performing the assessment for them and migrating them from RTF planes to one of the choices that they preferred based on our recommendations. So we are a team of SMEs who have actually implemented this for customers in the real world, and we have come up with best practices and some assets that can help with the migration as well, right? So if you're one of those customers that are still thinking about it, you're using RTF appliance, you're looking for additional help, and looking for someone who has already done it successfully for other customers, then you're actually on the right spot. You can quickly let us know if that is your interest by dropping us an email on info@royalsaber.com, the email ID that is shown on the screen, right? So we would be happy to jump in and help you with your journey. So that's all we had for today. Now I would like to open the floor for Q&A and see what interesting questions you have that we can answer for you. And while we're waiting, I wanted to make an announcement that if anybody on the call is interested in asking questions over the mic, do let us know in the chat, and my team can unmute your lines, and you can start talking to me or Heather, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you very much for your those interesting questions and for your time today. I know it does not end here. If you have more questions or need additional information on the topics we have discussed, feel free to reach us at the email ID shown here, which is info@royalcyber.com, or you can also call us on the telephone number that displayed on your screen. So thank you again. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this session, you will be presented with a short survey once you end the session, and we would request you to fill up the survey and to let us know your feedback about today's session and what kind of sessions you would love to hear from us in the future. So that would help us to make these sessions exciting, helpful, and relevant, right, to you. So thank you so much for your time today. See you again in another exciting webinar. Until then, take care.